Mighty Blue, there's a first time for everything. So we are here at the amazing, gorgeous Weary Feet Hostel in Bland, Virginia. And we are instructors for our Woods Hole weekend.
Which is somewhat daunting, it's got to be said, yeah. To instruct,
is that what we call ourselves?
Yeah, to instruct other people, and when really we kind of make it up as we go along, don't we?
So, for the purposes of what we're doing this weekend, it's going to be fun to give the participants some background about us as well. So, to kind of kick and start that off, what got you into hiking, Mighty Blue?
Well, I read the Bill Bryson book. I used to travel a lot, and I was about to get on a plane to either Australia or Japan, and I picked up A Walk in the Woods. I used to love reading Bill Bryson books anyway. Picked up Walk in the Woods, and I loved it straight away. I lived in the UK at the time, and of course I had no idea there was such a thing as one path that connected 14 states and went all the way up the spine of America. So it went to the top of my bucket list. I never had any intention of moving to America. But 5 or 6 years later, or 7 years later, I did move to America, and it stayed on my bucket list. And suddenly, when I sold my business, the time was right. So I went and hiked, and apparently I haven't stopped hiking since. But yeah, that's what got me into it, and I just loved it. It was just such a transformative experience, definitely.
So I know your first completion was in 2014, and you openly and candidly talk about you were somewhat of a mess.
Oh, a shambles, yeah. I said at the end, I did a bunch of presentations locally. I said, I will never, ever, ever hike again as long as I live. And it's strange how, and a lot of our guests this weekend are going to learn this, it's strange how when you walk the Appalachian, or hike the Appalachian Trail, how it just comes back into your mind all the time, literally every day after that. And you get this yearning to get back on the trail. And very soon after I decided I was never going to hike again, I thought, well, maybe I could go again sometime. And I tried to do the John Muir Trail, which of course I failed at. But yeah, it was, it just stays within you. You can't loosen it from your soul.
And so, because the AT has a tendency to grab our souls, you went back out again in 2019.
Yep, I did.
Northbound.
Of course. Is there any other way to go? I know the ATC hate that, but it for me, the trail was set up to be a northbound hike because the first 1,700 miles prepares you for New Hampshire and Maine. And then you finish at Katahdin. I mean, what could be better than that?
And then after 2019, we had this little thing called COVID hit.
We did.
And it kind of took the hiking world into various avenues. And in the fall of 2020, really during the height of COVID, we decided to start hosting this weekend, the Woods Hole weekend.
Sure.
So talk to us a little bit about, I guess, what participants could expect. And you and I have even had conversations, even as early as this morning, where you made a comment and said, we are qualified to tell people about the trail. So talk about that comment.
Well, you know, it's funny. When you're doing the trail, you make all sorts of mistakes, as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure everybody else who's been on the trail knows. But if you just make a stupid mistake, you just don't do that again. And that's how you then learn that to not do that thing again. And so we've made all these mistakes. I've hiked on the AT over 5,000 miles now, because I did some other miles as well. So I've hiked enough to know what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't work. But it still only works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for anybody else. So all we're hopefully going to do, with 4 of us having through hiked in different forms of the Appalachian Trail, we're going to give the knowledge we've learned to the participants, and with a bit of luck, they'll glean things that make sense to them, and they'll apply those techniques once they get on the trail themselves.
Excellent. So we are talking now before we meet everybody and everybody shows up here, and we're going to have lunch at Weary.
Yeah, we're looking way too relaxed at the moment.
So knowing a little bit of knowledge that you have, because all of our participants filled out questionnaires and they kind of put what their hopes were to learn this weekend.
Sure.
What are your hopes for them?
My hope for them is to absorb some of the culture and the characters of the Appalachian Trail beyond the trail itself. I mean, today we're going to walk to Dismal Falls. Not everybody's going to be with us, but from tomorrow we'll be at Woods Hole, which we both love as well, and they'll pick up from us our joy of the trail, the things we've done where we messed up, the things we've done where we did well. Yeah, and things we've done we did well as well. And my hope is that when they leave there, they'll feel sufficiently informed to be able to make decisions on their own behalf to how they want to hike the trail. That's what I'm hoping to do anyway. So Clay, I'm sitting here with you, admiring your colourful dress, but particularly those glasses. Whatever the camera's doing, I hope it's catching these glasses, the colour of those glasses. So tell us, what was it about hiking that made you want to hike as much as you have over years?
I've always been an outdoors person. I did not start this long distance thing until I was 53 years old. And I would say that almost day one when I started on the Colorado Trail in 2015, I just understood almost immediately, oh, this is a thing that I like.
Oh, really?
And this is a thing that I'm gonna like and I'm gonna go for. And it never faded off for me.
But what was it about the hike that did it for you then?
You know, everything that I loved in terms of stories growing up had to do with animals or people or cowboys or hobbits starting one place and going a long, long ways away somewhere else.
Sure.
Lord of the Rings, Lonesome Dove, Watership Down, whatever it was. And that sense of journey, that's what I'll call it with a capital J. It just fired my imagination. I wasn't going out for 2 days and sitting around and then coming back.
Sure.
I was going. And that sense of narrative and arc and just like progress is what really, I mean, it's almost like a meta kind of thing, but it really got me going and I adored it.
And that struck you pretty much straight away, did it?
Right away, yeah. And I made so many mistakes. My God, I started off with a hiking kilt, which was a good idea, but boy, did I have bad chafe. I mean, my God, and I thought, oh man, I'm never wearing a hiking kilt again. I threw it away. Well, wasn't it? See, this is, you don't know until you know. It wasn't the kilt. It was just hiking. I just had to understand how to not get chafe and how to treat it. So I had all kinds of problems, but really, truly, I just got it. This is cool. And I'm not turning back.
So tell us about the qualities you bring in terms of your qualifications. I mean, because you hiked a lot, haven't you, recently? Tell us about the hiking you've done.
Yeah, so since starting the CT in 2015, I've done the Colorado Trail, the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, 1,000 miles of the Continental Divide Trail, the Foothills Trail, the Pinoti Trail, 300 miles of the Great Plains Trail. I've never stopped, and I don't want to stop. The only thing I regret is like waiting so long in life to do all this. So I think since I started the CT, I've added up, it's like I think I've done 6,700 or 6,800 miles of hiking, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you still get the same joy out of it.
I am more fully myself almost the moment I set foot on trail than I am anywhere else in life. I just like it. My body likes it. My brain likes it. There's something new around every corner, you know? Every step is something new, and my brain likes that.
And I know you were involved in the first Woods Hole weekend.
Yeah.
And I know you embraced it. We all did. It was better than we all thought it would be in many ways, you know. And we felt we got a great feedback from the listeners as well. What are you hoping at the end of this weekend our guests take away from the weekend?
It's pretty simple for me because I saw it happen that first time. Whether they go out for a day or do the whole thing, I'm hoping that every one of them will feel excited about the Appalachian Trail by the time we're done with this weekend. Just excited that our excitement from having done it, all of us who are presenting, will infect them. And they will have the virus that they will never be able to shake.
They never will. You're absolutely right. Well, I appreciate
They'll
you.
have to mask up and take boosters for the rest of their lives if they want to stay off the trail.
Yeah, like you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a man who needs it more and more. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Cheers.
You know, I got to say, as soon as I get into the trail environment, I don't, I think everybody should just be their trail name. So I'm going to refer to you as Jester.
That sounds great.
Okay, we don't even know that you have any other name.
Exactly.
So Jester, here we are. We're getting ready to launch the third Woods Hole weekend. And I want to know about your story. What in the world got you into hiking, doing this long distance stuff?
So my outdoors, getting involved in the outdoors goes back to my childhood. And although I love my mother dearly, I am certainly a daddy's girl. And I am still a daddy's girl. And my mother says, out of the womb, I went straight to my father, and I have been attached to my father ever since. So no matter what my dad did, whether we went fishing, whether we were changing the oil, in his truck, whether he went hiking, I was always with my dad, and we were always outside. And I remember somewhere around middle school, beginning of high school, he found a series on who knows what, probably PBS back then. This is early 80s, about the Appalachian Trail. And he always he was like, I want to take you to the Appalachian Trail. I want to hike on the Appalachian Trail. And I just grew up with that ingrained in me that somehow, some way, somewhere, I was going to hike the Appalachian Trail, whether that was with my father, whether that was following in his footsteps. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I ventured off like everybody else does, finished high school, went off to college, went straight from college to the job. But I always had it in my mind, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And I got into running, I got into trail running, and I had some girlfriends of mine that were into triathlons. And one weekend we were actually sitting around a campfire, and I said, do you guys want to go hike the Appalachian Trail? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And we were total noobs. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We were green. We had no idea. We went to the outfitter. Each of us spent $1,000, whatever, the whole story, the whole kit and caboodle, what everybody does. And I just wanted to be on the Appalachian Trail. I didn't know what through hiking was. I didn't know what a section hiker was. I think at that point when I started in 2006, I didn't even know what a day hiker was. I just knew I wanted to be a person on the Appalachian Trail. And I was really schooled and educated by the Appalachian Trail. Going out, making mistakes, going out year after year. And I actually got my job that I do now in education. I'm not an educator by trade, because I wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail in the summer. And then it just kind of progressed from there. And I know that was a long story, but I'll finish that question with this. When I was driving up the highway to get here, and I turned off the road, and I knew I was this close to the Appalachian Trail, I had butterflies in my stomach like I was going on a first date. Like I was being connected back to the thing that I love the most.
You've done, hundreds of episodes of the podcast at this point, is that right?
Yep, almost close to 149.
Okay, so getting there. And obviously you've got all this different kind of experience and everything. What do you think you bring specifically to this weekend to offer to the folks that are coming here, that are looking to some people with experience? What kind of stuff can you offer them with all of that experience that you've got now?
I think first and foremost, I learn by doing. So what I could offer right away is you're going to make mistakes. And you're going to learn by every mistake that you make. And then you're going to perfect what you do. And you're going to think you're going to go out and you're not going to make any more mistakes. And guess what you do? You go out and make mistakes. This weekend, I'll go out and make mistakes. I will have maybe forgot something. Somebody will ask me something and it may not be at the tip of my tongue. But I will say my first completion of the Appalachian Trail went from 2006 and I finally completed in 2017. But what most people don't know is that I almost have a second completion as a section hiker. I lack New Hampshire and Maine to have a second completion.
The easy states.
The easy states, yes. I've completed the Wonderland Trail. I've completed the Foothills Trail. I've stepped foot on the Pinhoti just slightly, a little bit. The Long Trail. And I've done a lot of things, but something that I'm proud of as well, I have almost 25,000 miles walked in my local nature preserve by my house.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of miles.
yeah, and the number one thing that I could offer is never give up, keep trying to fulfill your dreams, and you don't have to be a thru hiker to hike a long distance trail. You can make it happen if it's in your heart to do so.
Yeah, and I like to say too that definition of long distance, it depends. You talk about the Foothills Trail, which I've done. It's only 77 miles, but to me it's like a little crystallized version of the Southern AT. You get everything and a little more. You got that pretty river and everything. So we got a bunch of people coming with high hopes of various kinds. What do you hope they come away from the weekend with?
I hope they come away with the same feeling that I have. When I see that white blaze, I don't know what happens to me. I don't know what overcomes me, but I just have this great sense of peace, gratitude, and thankfulness that I was introduced to this trail. And I hope, and I'm going to get emotional about it because I do every time. Here it goes, everybody.
Up so we can see you cry.
There's not a tear yet, but it's in my voice. There is just something about this 2 by 6 inch blaze that goes from Georgia to Maine, no matter where we are all at, on the trail, whether you're in Vermont, whether you're in Virginia, it is home.
Your heart goes pity pat.
It does. It's doing it right now.
All right. Well, good. Glad to have you here. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, Clay.
My name is Paul Collins, but I mainly go by Skunk Ape, especially whenever I get out here on the trail.
How did you accept that name, by the way?
I gave it to
You're proud of it. I know you are.
Being from Florida, that's what we call the Bigfoot down there, is the Skunk Ape. And so, a while back, whenever, you had me on your podcast, like I told you back then, when people ask me, I tell them it's like a twofold name, though, Tell them that the definition of the skunk ape is a hairy bipedal creature that wanders through the woods and emits a putrid odor. I go, so, fitting for a through hiker too, so.
Perfect.
It was fitting.
So, as you say, you're on the show before, and you did the AT in 2012, I think it was.
2012, yes.
Yeah. And so, what actually got you into hiking in the first place? What was that thing that got you there?
I've always loved the outdoors. I remember, as a kid, whenever I was growing up, my great uncle, he was more like a father figure to me, and he would always take me camping and all that stuff. So I've always been into camping, and I remember I was probably around 8, maybe 9 years old. I remember my sisters and my mom going on a vacation trip, and we went up through the Shenandoahs and all that, and I remember pulling over at several of the overlooks, and I remembered seeing the sign with a blaze about the Appalachian Trail.
Sure.
Of course, back then I had no idea the extent of it. I just knew it was a trail and people walked on this trail into the woods, and I was like, that'd be neat. I want to do that one day. And then of course, the older I got, it always stuck in my mind. And then I, read up on the AT and what it was, and thought it'd be a good journey to, be able to do. And it just so happened that the job that I had at the time, I worked construction. So certain times of the year it gets slow, and you would get laid off and everything else. And I'd been saving money to be able to do it, not knowing when I'd be able to do it. But I got laid off, and I figured, okay, this is perfect. I'm not having to quit a job or anything like that. I got money saved up. I'm going to do it.
And that kind of sort of kicked your life into other directions as well, didn't it? You're our hammock man, as I said before, and you're obviously one of the reasons you're coming along is you're trying to convince people it should be hammocking and not tenting. Is that right?
Right. Well, I mean, and I accidentally got into hammocking when I was planning for my 2012 hike. You know, the only hammocks I knew about were like the backyard, you know, woven hammocks. I didn't know there was a such thing as a camping hammock, and accidentally came across them while looking for, you know, a little one-man tent. I was like, well, you know, this looks, you know, pretty interesting. And so I ended up getting one, and I will not go back to the ground. Will not unless I absolutely have to. You know, if I get on a trail that for whatever reason don't allow, you know, hammocks, I'll go to the ground, but I'll still be going to the ground in my hammock. You know.
So your qualification is obviously a through hiker on the trail. So, and we all have that we have that experience. We've been on the trail. We spent a lot of time on the trail. Does the hammocking actually bring a new thing to you? Something that's different, or is just now the only difference is you just don't sleep on the ground?
Well, I mean, I have the you know, of course, with as, you know, long as I've been hammocking and stuff like that, I know about the comforts and, you know, the benefits of hammocking. But yeah, I mean, there ain't no way I'm going back to the ground.
So we're going to get obviously our guests that have come up this week, and they're going to be learning things from all four of us. We've got some experience to impart. When we go away from here, we drive away on Sunday afternoon. What are you going to be hoping has happened?
I hope that, I mean, a couple things. One, that the guests are more informed about hammocks, of course, because I know there's a big misconception about, you know, hammocks. You know, some people say that hammocks are heavier than tents and everything else, which, I mean, can and can't be true. You know, I mean, it can, depending on the season that you're you know, hiking in and stuff like that. But when you take everything that's needed for a hammock and then you take everything that's needed for a tent, the weight difference really isn't that much. But in my opinion, also, which, you know, I'm gonna have some hammocks set up for people to lay in and try and all that stuff, so they'll be able to experience this stuff as well. But just the comfort level, and then, you know, some of the benefits, you know, that you have of you know, hiking with a hammock. So, you know, to directly answer your question, I want people to be more informed about hammocks, but as far as the trail itself, I want the people to have the same feeling as I have about the trail, which, I mean, just being up here, I love it. I feel like a kid.
Isn't that amazing?
It's
I
awesome.
feel that as well, and I didn't think I would. I didn't think it would make me feel that way. But I know as Julie's mentioned earlier on, that we're right by the trail. I almost feel like I'm speaking in hushed voices. We're near this hallowed ground that we're going to walk on this afternoon. And it's a real treat to be doing it.
When I see on the Facebook post and all this of other people that are out on the trails, and I start seeing the pictures and all that, I get that depression every year. And it's like I said, I feel homesick. You know, the trail to me feels like home.
Well, the next few days, we're going to have the chance to inculcate that feeling to other people as well. That's a real privilege for us to be doing so. I appreciate you coming along and joining the team this year.
I appreciate y'all inviting me.
And it'd be interesting to me to see how many of them actually end up with a hammock next year.
I'm wanting to get you in a hammock. Let you try it. I want you to try it.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, appreciate it. Cheers.
All right, my friend, here we are again. And we are at Weary Feet Hostel, getting ready to meet some of our participants that are going to be with us for 4 days over this amazing Woods Hole weekend. And you're in a unique situation where you haven't been with us before. And
First timer.
you're kind of serving a couple roles, big role behind the scenes with a camera. But tell us your love and your drive for passion, whether hiking, outdoors. Tell us how all this got started.
Well, I did Boy Scouts growing up. So my older brother's an Eagle Scout. and he was kind of my role model growing up. I said I want to be. He's going to laugh when he watches this, but he was my role model growing up, and so I wanted to be an Eagle Scout. So I was an Eagle Scout, did the whole Boy Scout thing, and that's where the love of the outdoors came from. You know, growing up as a family, we went camping all the time, and so it was just kind of a natural thing. And I kind of got out of it as I grew up. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it just wasn't. I'm not nearly as passionate, or I was not nearly as passionate then as I am now. And then, really, in like 2016, my wife and I had moved up to Raleigh, and we discovered the Mountains to Sea Trail, and then hiking portions of the MST, going up into western North Carolina and hiking all up in Pisgah. Did MST sections up there, and have just, it's just it's home now. It's not a place I go visit. It's where I feel most at home. And so not just hiking, but I'm also a long distance kayaker, and I think that the backpacking and long distance kayaking are kind of intertwined. I think the mentality is very similar. You get to pack more stuff when you're doing kayaking, so weight is not nearly as much an issue with kayaking, but with long distance kayaking, there's just a very organic and almost spiritual connection that you have with the outdoors and the river specifically. So I know this is a hiking channel, but I'm going to do my little pitch for kayaking too. So, but yeah, so that's where it came from.
And I know in 2021 you did through hike the John Muir Trail, so congratulations.
Yeah.
And I am sure there is some wisdom that you can bring from that.
Yes. The JMT is I mean, it was a bucket list item for my brother and I, and I mean, it was just it's surreal to look back on it now. The Sierras are a magical place. And as far as wisdom, I can't think of any specific nugget that you would want other than don't give up on the lottery. That the permit lottery can be demoralizing. So that's my one little nugget for anybody that wants to do that. Don't give up.
So you kind of have a singular role here, and that is going to be the large task of videoing this weekend for something that we as the Hiking Radio Network could use in the future. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting for me as a creator, because for the most part, other than the series, the I Am the MST series that you and I just did, I have been in front of the camera entirely. You know, I started out on the YouTube thing back in 2019 with the camera pointed at me. And so the I Am the MST series kind of helped me realize that I really enjoy being behind the camera and pointing the camera at other people. And that's what this weekend for me is going to be mostly about, is capturing not only what the instructors and the presenters are putting out, but capturing the participants too, and how they learn, and capturing the experience, so that the folks that can't come out here can still kind of get a taste of what that's like. So that's my goal for this weekend.
In one of the sessions, one of the breakout sessions we're going to have is potentially people that want to podcast while they're on the trail, people that want to vlog while they're on the trail. And you have a saying that, you know, vlogging your hikes is part of your hike.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that you can teach the participants. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, because it was one of the things that you asked me in one of our very first podcasts. You asked me how much time does filming the hike add to my hike? And I said, well, none, because that's part of it. That's part of my experience. When I go out, I'm taking pictures and videos and all that other fun stuff. But yeah, the capturing, it started for me, it started as just capturing trip videos to show friends and family and that kind of thing. But I've really started to enjoy telling stories in the trip videos, and capturing, you know, again, going back to, you know, somebody that can't come out for whatever reason, capturing the essence of what it was like to be out there. and then selfishly, it's one that I get to look back on and experience and feel all those feelings again. Like watching my JMT videos. I just finished watching one last week just because I wanted to watch it, and it's amazing. You know, you talked about like that the pitter pat of your heart when you got back on in AT country. I felt that same feeling just watching the videos, and so that's a way for me to kind of stay connected with the trail, even when I can't physically be out.
So my last question is, we've kind of been asking each other what we want the participants to get out of this, but since you are new with us, what do you hope to get out of this?
What do I hope to get out of this weekend?
Yeah.
Selfishly, I am still honing my craft as a creator, and so this whole weekend is going to be a huge exercise in balancing memory and batteries and capturing shots, being in the right place at the right time to capture emotions, and then creating something that everybody can enjoy at the end. So that's my personal goal. But I also hope that the folks that come here this weekend, they walk away and they're so disappointed that it's over. And the only thing they can think about is, I want to go hike. I want to go hike the AT. Like that's, Pony talked about the virus.
Oh God, that was so good.
That virus where they just can't stand not being on the trail. That's what I want.
All right. Excellent.
Good time.